The Aho thing, I mean, this is anything but courteous in terms of how it ripples through the league and the awkwardness of it. What's your take on all of this, knowing that it'll be matched, and you probably knew that anyway?
Jim, have you ever driven on the roads in Montreal and around Montreal?
Mm-hmm.
You know how poorly constructed they are, and all the rehabilitation they're doing to the overpasses and the highways?
Mm-hmm.
I think Marc Bergevin, the construction of the offer sheet was every bit as poorly constructed as the Montreal roads.
That's
if you're
shaky.
Trying to acquire, if you're trying to acquire a player and you make that kind of an offer sheet, like what you want to say is this: what were you thinking? What were you trying to do? Because really, I could understand a futile attempt. That wasn't an attempt at all. That was, quite frankly, it was laughable.
Do you suspect there'll be any more offer sheets in the coming days?
I don't, Kristen. I really don't. I mean, here's the thing is about offer sheets. I've been around for 2 decades watching offer sheets. Now, you will not know the name Sean Gagnon, Kristen, but you can look it up. Okay. I was in Dallas. We put an offer sheet in on Sean Gagnon, and we couldn't get him. We couldn't get him. You can't get players on offer sheets unless you massively overpay them. And I'm talking like, you want to get Sebastian Aho? Put a $14 million a year offer in. Put a $15 million a year offer in. Then you got a chance to get him. 8.45? Come on. You got no chance. So if the objective of an offer sheet is to acquire a player, which I think it's all about, nobody's been able to do it. Nobody's done it. One case, Dustin Penner, doesn't happen. So why are teams going to continue to do it unless you're going to massively overpay a player? And why do you want to do that? So, Kristen, the last one was 2013. I suspect the next one will be a long ways off.
Okay, I guess it's the term that can be problematic for the Canes. It's not the money, it's the term, the 5 years, which leaves him plenty of meat left on the bone for another contract. How problematic is that in your mind?
Well, Austin Matthews is in the same boat, Jim.
Yeah, he is.
5 years, and he's walking right to free agency. Now, Toronto was able to get 1 year of free agency from Austin Matthews in the contract. They're not. You can't do that, with Sebastian Aho. So what I think is going to happen, and this is why teams are going to be, as you start to set a template for how things are done. So the 5 year contract for Matthews, at that money, teams are going, oh boy, gee, so this is what we're going to run into. And now you hear teams saying we want lower, we want shorter term. Timo Meier signed for 4 years yesterday in San Jose, and he'll have 1 year to free agency before. So what I'm going to suggest, Jim, in 4 to 5 years, I think all these guys are going to sign 4 and 5 year deals. Because first of all, we've seen that players outperform the value of their contracts real quickly. The Nathan McKinnons, the David Pasternaks, the Brad Marchand, there's Mark Scheifele, there's a whole slew of them. So now the players are saying, we're not going to do this any longer. So we're taking short-term contracts. So now what's going to happen is these players are all going to be on 4 and 5 year deals. That's what's going to happen, unless you're going to massively overpay to get them on a long-term contract. So to me, this is where we're at, and this is where we're going to get to significant free agency. You want to see a free agent frenzy in 4 or 5 years? Pay attention, because when you got the likes of Austin Matthews and Patrick Laine and that whole class that's going to come through, that'll be free agent frenzy July 1st in 4 or 5 years.
Well, and that's interesting, because if the league had asked for 4 or 5 year maxes as it is in the NBA, it would have been turned down by the players, but the players have obviously tipped it in this direction anyway.
They have, Jim. They absolutely have, and there's also other tipping points when you start to see the league trend younger, and the league is becoming quicker and faster, which lends itself right to younger players. And you see, it used to be players would wait and say, well, at 28, 29, we're going to get our payday, or 30. Well, guess what? They're getting phased out at that point in time in most cases. So now players are saying, wait a sec, we're significant contributors in entry level at 19, 20, 21, and we're not accepting, these deals that are far below when we're such significant contributors to the success of our individual teams and marketed big time in the league. So that's where we're at, and this is, to me, a byproduct of the league becoming younger and the players understanding that they're a significant part of the growth of the league and a significant part of the marketing efforts of the league, and for the individual teams, a significant part of them being able to have success. And, I get asked this all the time. People say, well, they don't have any leverage. Oh, yeah, they have leverage. They have leverage because you have your best young players withholding services, and the league is so tight standings-wise, you can't afford to have them out of your lineup. That's big leverage.
Well, Craig, let's pivot back to the Leafs and what they did yesterday. I wanted to ask you this and get your thoughts on the decision of the Senators to sort of go through this big trade with the Leafs when they were trying to move Zaitsev. They needed to get a right-hand defenseman back for him, right-shot defenseman. Was that bizarre to you to see the way that these two teams, given their history, given they're in the same division, that to see the Senators kind of bail the Leafs out a little bit there? And I know that definitely there was a lot of fans wondering if, like, just how weird was that to you that the Senators were willing to almost help the Leafs out by orchestrating this trade with them?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question, Kristen. And but let's not forget, and sometimes we tend to, but they made a trade with Dion Phaneuf a number of years back. So this isn't without precedent with respect to the two teams working. And Ottawa took on that contract, and this was at a time when Toronto was trying to get out from some of their contract obligations, and they made a trade. So it's interesting, and I think DJ Smith going to Ottawa as the head coach, becomes a big factor in this, because when you're trying to make a trade and you have intimate knowledge of Nikita Zaitsev, and you have intimate knowledge of Connor Brown, and you're trying to build your team, and as a manager, you start to go, okay, I know we can. We know the situation or the plight, the salary plight that Toronto may be in. We got to help ourselves, and we got to become a better team. And our coach really understands these players and what we're trying to do here. Ottawa has a good group of young players, and they're trying to make sure that those players don't get thrown into the deep waters and are left not only treading water but with the water coming up and over their heads. So I think that. It's a situation where you can look at it and say, you know what, we don't really have a big appetite for helping out our competitor, but at the same time, we have to help ourselves. And I think that's what was born out of this. And I think for the Toronto Maple Leafs, obviously trying to find some flexibility and a player that wanted out in Zaitsev, I think that, you find partners sometimes in the strangest of places, shall we say.